Let's talk about color vision and color blindness. The visible light spectrum is the section of electromagnetic radiation measured in nanometers. Different wavelengths or nanometers of light are perceived as different colors. Different species have different abilities to see color. As you see here, the human ability is compared to the ability of the common bee. Here we compare the human's ability to see color with that of the domesticated dog. What the dog is seeing is very different from what the human sees. Far fewer colors are represented in the vision of the dog than the human. When we look at the non-human primates, which includes apes and monkeys, you see that chimpanzee and other non-human apes have the same color vision as humans. Some monkeys have the same color vision of humans, but others do not. Their color vision is less precise, less variable than that of humans. When we look at the color vision in mammals, we see fewer colors represented. Cats can see blues and grays, rabbits can see blue and green, rats can see blue, green, and ultraviolet, and squirrels can see blues and yellows. So the colors an animal species sees likely has evolved depending upon the pressures from the environment. Maybe you're wondering how researchers know what colors animals can see. Well, the fact is they can determine this using operant conditioning experiments of the type B.F. Skinner developed back in the 1940s. There can be a food reward given only when the proper lever is pressed. So if those levers are different colors and you can train the animal to press the lever to get the food pellet, then the animal must be able to perceive that color. Some people have the inability to see some colors. Color blindness is the term that is typically used. The more precise medical term is achromatopsia. The most common cause of achromatopsia is genetics. You've inherited a problem with your color cones. There are 3 types of cones that perceive color. These are red cones, green cones, or blue cones. If you have an abnormality or one or multiple cones, you may end up with some form of color blindness. The most common form of color blindness is deuteranopia, or red-green color blindness. You typically are missing a green cone, a green detecting cone, and it's caused by a faulty gene on the X chromosome. So it affects more males than in females, because females have 2 X chromosomes. So if you have one inherited mutated one, the other one will compensate. For males, if you have a mutated X chromosome, then you end up with color blindness. In males, it occurs about 8% of the time, and in females, less than 1% of the time. It's observed more frequently in people with North European ancestry. A rarer form of red-green color blindness is protanopia, which is caused by the lack of a red detecting cone. This is also on the X chromosome and affects men more often than women, affecting about 1% of men, but far less than 1% of women. Another very rare form of color blindness is tritanopia. It affects males and females equally because the gene is not on the X chromosome. It affects fewer than 1 in 10,000 people worldwide. You can also get this form of color blindness due to trauma, brain injury, or exposure to too much ultraviolet light. Our last example of a rare form of color blindness is blue cone monochromacy. It involves faulty red-green cones, and so everything you see are in shades of gray. It affects fewer than 1 in 100,000 people worldwide, and it also affects males more than females, so perhaps the X chromosome is involved. These images try to approximate what the world looks like to people with the different forms of color blindness. There's a link on Canvas that simulates different types of color blindness. These images show you some of the color changes that you might observe, but the website has many, many more examples. I definitely encourage you to check it out. That's all for now.